Okay, hi there. My name is Jimmy G and I'm a comic book colorist and letterer, and today we're going to be talking about preparing your artwork for colouring or flatting, depending on what job you're doing today. We're mostly going to be covering Clip Studio Paint, probably pop into Photoshop just to give us some examples. Let's get started. So, here is a drawing of Damon Albarn. He's the frontman for a wonderful band in the UK called Blur, and this is art by Drew Moss. It's the Colorist Jam for October 2019. It's a great piece of art. As we can see in Clip Studio though, we are missing the lines, and this is one of the restrictions that you have when you're working with Clip Studio. It doesn't handle TIFF files, especially layered TIFF files, very well, and it also doesn't have channel options. If we pop over to the same piece of art in Photoshop, we can see that it looks very similar. However, if we click up here on the channels tab, you can see right here, Alpha 1, press that, the line art magically appears. Now we'll go through the process of doing that in the Photoshop video for preparing line art, but for now let's stick in Clip Studio and we'll just pretend we don't have this one. Okay, so your line art's going to come in lots of different forms, formats, stages, and here's a really good example. It's an Absolute Carnage alternate cover drawn by Scoot Stearns with the inks by Matthew Seaborn. It is a fantastic piece of art. However, this is obviously a scan, and we can see that because here, little details from the paper where it's been scanned in. It's not a problem. There are many ways of getting rid of it, and Clip Studio Paint has some interesting tools for the preparation of line art. Now, the first and foremost, we're going to do it a fairly simple way. We're going to use the magic wand, remembering to check our settings. Color margin should be 0. Area scaling, it's not even ticked. Follow adjacent pixel, and how to create is always on select new. What we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to click on the black, and we're going to see where we're at. Now, as you can see, we're missing quite a bit of the line art here. So we're going to deselect that. We're going to use the little deselect tool here, and we're going to increase our color margin. Now, I would suggest just put it up to about 50 to get started. Click again on the black, and as you can see there, straight away, massive difference. We've got way more of the artwork selected. Now, I'm a bit finicky when it comes to things like this, so we're going to try and get those last few pixels. Going to deselect again, go back to color margin, set it to 75 this time, and then we're going to click, and as you can see, we've got all of those, or pretty much all, bar a few maybe slightly grey ones here. It's not a huge problem. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to click to start a new layer, and then we're going to click create layer mask. It's going to use the selection we've just made from the line art to create this inverted mask here. Now what we're going to do is click on the layer icon, that's this one here, not the mask. So we're going to fill up with a nice heavy black. We're going to go to our paint bucket tool. Now, subtool settings, there's a few, but what we want is refer only to editing layer. Now, the refer of the layers tool is something that some people use to cheat when they're flatting a little bit. I'm not a big fan of it, but we'll cover that in the flatting video for Clip Studio Paint. So refer only to editing layer, make sure that we've got our layer icon selected, fill the entire layer, and then we're going to hide that original art. And as you can see now, what we have is a completely transparent set of inks ready to get some color underneath them. Now, obviously the original inks, we're going to lock those away, never touch them again for safety's sake, and then we're going to click on new layer. We're going to make sure that layer is beneath the masked layer that we made, and we're going to fill that with any color you want, like that. Now obviously if you want to make it look like a piece of line art, fill it with a nice pure white, and there you have it. This is I think some people call this the inverted mask technique or the super black ink technique, but it doesn't really matter. But now this this is ready to start either flatting or colouring straight away, depending on which way you like to do your work. So let's look at a different example. This is a page by Oliver Borges. It's a TIFF file. That's not a problem because it's all come on one flat layer. Now we're not going to be able to save any layers, so straight away we're going to save as a Photoshop document, same name, save. Now we're working in Photoshop format. We can be completely sure we'll save all of our work when we do come to save it. Now this art has come, again, all one flat layer, black and white, no grey areas. This is obviously been done digitally, so there's no scanning errors or excess items that we don't want. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer. There's two ways to do this. You can either right click, duplicate layer, or click, hold, drag it up to the new layer icon, and there we're going to lock away that original, hide it, and never touch it again, keeping it safe. Now we're going to go to the copied layer. What I would suggest doing is renaming this so you can keep track of it. We're going to call it Inks, and then we're going to duplicate this again just so we've got two playable layers. Hide that. Now we're not going to use the magic wand because we haven't got any excess that we want to get rid of or anything like that. There's two ways to set this page up. We can either, hold on, start a new layer, put it underneath, fill it with any color we want, bring back that, and then we can set this layer to multiply. As you can see, all the white becomes completely see-through and the black stays there ready for you to start applying color or flats. Okay, so that's one way. We're going to set this back to normal and delete this layer. So I can show you one of Clip Studio Paint's cooler, funkier little tools. So we're going to click the layer with our inks on it. We're going to go to Edit, and we're going to click on Convert Brightness to Opacity. It's going to take a second, and as you can see what it does, the brighter something is, the more see-through it becomes, and we've got that nice contrast between white and black. What we end up with is a very nice clean set of lines. Now if we go back to this, I'll show you the problem with using that tool when something's been scanned. If we duplicate the layer, we'll take it up to the top, hide, keep that locked, hide all the other layers, take this, and we're going to do Edit, Convert Brightness to Opacity, give it a second. Now as you can see, at first glance it looks tip-top, no problems at all. We've got nice clean lines and transparency where the white was. But if we go in where we saw those original errors, as you can see there's this slightly grey faded area where there was that bluish print. So if we then add a layer underneath it, fill it with a nice bright colour, you'll see. Now obviously you don't want to print that. You can cover this up or you can mask it, but that'll just be a little time consuming for that kind of artwork. So we're going to go back to the Daredevil page. We've got our inks that are now on a transparent layer, and then as before, new layer, go in behind, fill it with white or any bright colour if you're going to start flatting, and then this is locked so it's completely safe. and we can now delete this, just minimizing the number of layers we have so we don't start getting confused. So that's if you've got some nice clean artwork like this wonderful page by Oliver. Now, the absolute gold standard when it comes to providing colorists with prepared ink, here's a really good example by David Pupo. Now, I've worked with David on a couple of projects before, so I knew when he sent me these, I was in for something awesome. As you can see, lots of layers. This is coming PSD format straight to me after I asked him if I very nicely if I could color them. So if we turn off this layer called paper, just look at that beautiful labeling. Turn off that, you can see all of the inks are transparent. Now there is some white here. If we go over here to this white outline layer, click on that, you can see what he's done is use some white to correct some overlapping inks, like this. But then when you apply that to paper, it has this fantastic effect. Now, when I'm working with this, I want to save all of these layers so I can use them for selections. But I don't want them all on a separate layer for me to prepare this line art. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these layers and I'm going to drag them up to the group icon, and they're all now in a group. I'm then going to right click, duplicate layer. So now I've got two copies. I'm going to rename the first one. Okay, we're going to rename this first one Originals, and then we're going to lock it, hide it, pretend it never happened. Now, because we've got all these on a transparency, we could just turn off the paper, merge them all together into one layer, create some holes, and then fill that layer with black. But the problem is we have this white outline layer. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to take all these and we're going to one by one combine to layer below. 1, 2. Until we get down to paper copy, and then we're going to go to file, edit, convert brightness to opacity. There we go. And what we've done, we've got rid of that white in there, but we kept the inks the way that David intended for us to receive them. So now what we do, take this layer, remove it from the group, delete that unnecessary folder, and then so now we've got our inks on one layer. Start a new layer, fill it with nice bright color so that we can see. Okay, and if we want to make selections of this, you can either again right click and we can do selection from layer, create selection, or if you press Control and click on the thumbnail, it'll make a collection, new layer, mask, using that solid black for the example. Make sure you've got the thumbnail selected, paint bucket, refer only to editing layer, fill that up, hide that. We've got a nice solid set of lines. Now the reason for this will become apparent when we start doing some colouring, but I like to use it for holds so that I can colour the line art much more effectively and much more quickly. So again, delete this layer. We've got our originals completely safe. So what we can do now, the absolute beauty of these inks from David, is because we've got the originals down here, we can Control, click on frames, and all we get is the frames. Obviously we want to make sure that our magic wand is set to 0 on the color margin. Then we can go to Control, click on the character inks, and there we go. We've got just the character ink selected. Everything on Elektra, these little birds. We can go Control, click back 1B. We've just got these. So when we come to start coloring, you'll see we can just instantly color these in a slightly lighter. Go click on your solid black layer. We're not editing the mask, we're editing the solid black, and then we're going to do fill just that. And then when we change this, just deselect that to a solid white, you'll see those are obviously slightly less dark. And then when we start coloring, that's how we're going to start creating depth. It's a fantastic, real luxury to have inks of this quality and set out that way, sent to you by the artist. Different types of inks set up, ready for you to either flat or color. That's just a few examples of how to prepare your line art. If I haven't come with something, I'm sorry, just let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can make a quick video letting you know how I'd handle the problem. Please do visit the links in the description. Check out the artist's work, like them, support them, follow them, show them a little love. If you've enjoyed it, please like the video, click the subscription button, hit the notification bell if you're really excited about things, and we'll see you on the next one.